Lady Margaret stood in the cold morning light. Her face was hard as stone, her words cut like winter wind. "Look at you, Emma." Each word dripped with disgust. 23 years old, still not married, still a burden on this family. Emma kept her chin up. She had heard this before. Every morning, every meal, every chance her mother found to remind her. "Your face is too plain," Margaret continued. "Your manner is too bold. You read books like a man. You speak your mind like a servant. What lord would want such a wife?" The great hall felt colder than usual. Emma's two sisters had portraits on the wall now. Beautiful brides in white gowns, married off at 18 and 19. Perfect daughters who smiled sweetly and never questioned anything. But Emma was different. She helped the kitchen maids when they burned themselves. She read to the stable boy who couldn't see the letters right. She asked too many questions. She laughed too loud. She refused to simper and bow. "I have found a solution," her mother announced. A cruel smile played at her lips. "You will marry Thomas Ward, the blacksmith. He needs a wife. He has paid well for one." Emma's heart stopped beating. The blood drained from her face. A blacksmith. Not even a merchant. Not even a clerk. The lowest match possible for a lord's daughter. "Mother, please." Her voice came out as a whisper. "It is done." Margaret's eyes were ice. "You leave tomorrow morning. Perhaps hard work will teach you the grace God forgot to give you." Towards that night, Emma packed her few belongings. Her books. No, her mother had taken those away. "Blacksmiths' wives don't need books," she had said. Only Emma's oldest dresses remained. The ones too worn for a lady. Work clothes now. She looked in her mirror one last time. Brown hair that wouldn't curl properly, brown eyes that held too much intelligence. A strong face, not delicate. Hands that knew real work, not just needlework. She was not beautiful. She knew that truth well. Her mother reminded her daily, but did that make her worthless? Did that mean she deserved? The servants whispered in the hallways. "Poor Lady Emma, sold like a cow at market. What a shame. What a waste." But Emma held back her tears. She would not cry, not for them, not for her mother, not for herself. She had survived 23 years in this house. She could survive whatever came next. Morning came too soon. A simple farm wagon waited in the courtyard. No carriage for her now. No ceremony, no blessing, just a driver who barely looked at her. Her mother watched from an upstairs window. No goodbye, no kind words, just cold satisfaction. The problem child was finally gone. Emma climbed into the wagon, her bags beside her. Her old life was ending with each turn of the wheels. She faced forward, into the unknown, into her punishment, into a life she never chose. But sometimes, life surprises us. Sometimes, punishment becomes a blessing. Sometimes the lowest match becomes the highest love. This is Emma's story. A plain girl, sold to a blacksmith. A woman who discovered her worth. A love that shocked them all. Thomas Ward was not what people expected from a blacksmith. Yes, his hands were rough from work. Yes, his clothes were simple. But his eyes were gentle, kind, thoughtful. He lived outside the village in a stone cottage. Simple but clean. Ordered but somehow warm. Nothing like the dark hovel the gossips describe. At 30 years old he was still unmarried. Not because no one would have him. The village girls giggled when he passed. Strong shoulders. Quiet manner. A mystery they all wanted to solve. But Thomas had his reasons for staying alone. His past held secrets. Pain that made him careful with people. Loss that taught him kindness. He worked alone. He lived alone. Until now. "Why did you agree to this marriage?" The grain merchant had asked him. "A lord's daughter for a wife. She'll bring you nothing but trouble." Thomas had just smiled. Everyone deserves a chance, don't they? But the truth went deeper. Thomas understood rejection. He knew what it felt like to be judged, to be called worthless. His own story, well, that was his secret to keep. For now.
Ew.
He prepared carefully for her arrival. He cleaned the spare bedroom, bought new bed linens from the market, picked wildflowers for the windowsill. Small gestures, kind gestures, ways to say welcome without words. The villagers laughed behind his back. "She's plain as porridge," they say. Difficult too. Her own mother paid you to take her off her hands. Thomas just sharpened his tools and ignored them. He knew about cruel labels, about harsh judgments, about being called names. He would judge this Emma for himself. His cottage was full of books. Strange thing for a blacksmith, people said. But Thomas read every night by candlelight. Poetry, history, philosophy. He made himself more than just muscle and metal. Another secret the village didn't need to know. The forge was his kingdom. Here, he created beauty from raw iron. Not just horseshoes and nails. Delicate metalwork. Garden gates with flowing designs. Weather vanes shaped like birds. Things that made people stop and stare. He was not wealthy, but he had enough. Enough for 2 people. Enough to share. Enough to build something good. If she would let him try, tomorrow she would arrive. This unwanted lady, this punishment bride. Thomas felt curious, not worried, ready, not angry. He would be kind. He would be patient. He would give her space and time and respect, things she probably never had. Things everyone deserved. The sun set behind the mountains. Thomas banked the forge fire and closed up his shop. Tomorrow both their lives would change. For better or worse, time would tell. But Thomas had hope. Strange, maybe, for a situation like this. But hope lived in his chest anyway. Hope that 2 unwanted people might learn to want each other. The wagon wheels stopped with a creak. Emma looked up through tired eyes. Stone walls, a smoking chimney, the steady ring of hammer on anvil. Her new prison. Thomas emerged from the forge shadows. Tall, broad-shouldered, covered in soot and sweat. Emma's heart sank to her stomach. Of course he looked exactly like she feared. What had she expected? But then he spoke. Lady Emma? His voice was soft, gentle. Nothing like she imagined. Welcome to your new home. I'm Thomas. She climbed down from the wagon alone. The driver left quickly, eager to be gone. No looking back, no second thoughts. Thomas reached for her bags with careful hands. Thank you, she managed to say. When was the last time anyone had helped her with anything? Come inside. You must be tired from the journey. He led her not to the forge, but to the cottage. A real house with glass windows and a red door. Clean, warm, nothing like the hovel she had feared. This is your room, Thomas said, opening a wooden door. Inside was a real bed with white sheets. A writing desk by the window. Curtains that matched the bedspread. Even fresh flowers in a clay pot. Emma stared in shock. My room. Not yours. Thomas looked surprised, then sad. Of course, your own room. This is your home now. You decide about everything else. She didn't understand. Where were the demands? The orders. The anger at getting damaged goods instead of a proper wife. Dad, are you hungry? He asked gently. I made beef stew. Simple food, I'm afraid. Nothing fancy. They ate in silence at a wooden table. The stew was good. Better than good. Emma watched him carefully. He used his napkin, said please and thank you to her. Treated her like a guest, not a servant. I should explain something, Thomas said finally. His eyes were serious but kind. I asked for a wife. Yes, but not what you might think. I want company. Help with the house. Someone to talk to in the evenings. Nothing more. Not unless you want more. Emma's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. You won't demand. I expect nothing from you. You're here. That's enough for now. We'll find our way together. Slowly. Begun. That first night, Emma lay in her own bed. Her own room, with a lock on the inside of the door. She tested it twice to be sure. It worked. Outside her window she could hear Thomas still working in the forge. The steady rhythm of his hammer. Creating something. Building something. Maybe they could build something too. The next morning brought more surprises. Breakfast was waiting on the table. Fresh bread still warm. Good tea in a china cup. A note written in careful letters. Gone to the forge. Take your time. Explore anywhere you like. This is your home now. Emma wandered through the cottage slowly. Books everywhere. Shelves and shelves of them. Poetry. History. Stories of adventure. A blacksmith who read. Who owned more books than some lords. She found the kitchen well stocked and organized. Everything in its proper place. The garden behind the house grew vegetables and herbs. Even flowers planted just for their beauty. This was not the punishment her mother had promised. Not the suffering she deserved. But then, what was it? What? Thomas returned at midday. He washed the soot from his hands and face. Underneath was a kind face, tired but smiling. Finding everything you need. The books, she started to say. Do you like to read? His whole face lit up. Please, use any of them. All of them. I can get more from the town. What do you enjoy? They talked about books then, about stories and ideas. a blacksmith who knew poetry by heart, a lady who loved ancient history. Finding common ground was neither expected. Days passed this way. Careful steps, small kindnesses, learning about each other like shy animals. Emma cooked meals. Thomas praised every dish. Thomas worked metal. Emma brought him water and food and company. No demands, no cruelty, no reminders of her plainness. Just partnership. Was that the right word? 1 week passed. Then 2. Emma realized something that shocked her. She wasn't afraid anymore. Wasn't waiting for the trap to spring. Wasn't holding her breath for the punishment to begin. Thomas was exactly what he seemed. A good man. A lonely man. A man who saw her as enough. Just as she was. Maybe this wasn't punishment after all. Maybe this was possibility. Morning came gently in the cottage. No harsh bells ringing. No shouted orders. Just sunlight through white curtains and the smell of bread baking. Thomas always woke first. Started the fire. Made breakfast. Left it warming for her like a gift. Emma found rhythm in this new life. Wake when her body was ready. Dress her in simple clothes that fit her properly. Eat food that tasted good. Help Thomas with his work. Learn new things. Sleep peacefully. And repeat. But each day felt lighter somehow. Each morning brought less fear. Can you hold this steady? Thomas asked one morning. A piece of hot iron glowing orange-red. He handed her special tongs to grip it safely. Need your hands free for shaping. She should have been terrified. Hot metal could burn. Forge work was dangerous. But Thomas taught her carefully. Showed her exactly how to hold it. Kept her safe while trusting her to help. Perfect, he said when they finished the horseshoe together. You have good hands for this work. Strong, steady, reliable. Strong, not delicate like a lady should be. Not soft and useless. Strong. It sounded like praise when Thomas said it. Tishki. The village needed everyday things. Horseshoes for the farmers. Nails for the carpenters. Tools for everyone. But Thomas also made beautiful things. Garden gates with iron roses. Weather vanes shaped like dancing girls. Decorative pieces that made people smile. Who taught you to make such lovely things? Emma asked. She was watching him shape metal flowers, each petal perfect and delicate. My father, Thomas said. Then he stopped. That shadow crossed his face again. The past he didn't share. He always said useful things should be beautiful too. Emma understood about secrets. She had plenty of her own, so she didn't push for more. Just watched, learned. Started seeing how heat changed metal, how hammer blows created form, how patience made perfection possible. She took over running the household. Not because Thomas demanded it, because she wanted to. Cooking became her experiment. Cleaning became her pride. The garden became her special place. These herbs, she told Thomas one evening, they help burns heal faster. These ones fight infection. My grandmother taught me before she died. Thomas listened to every word, asked real questions, used what she taught him, valued her knowledge like it mattered. No one had ever cared about her thoughts before. Talin. Evenings were for reading, both of them together by the fire, sometimes silently, sometimes taking turns reading aloud, sharing stories, discussing ideas. A blacksmith and a failed lady find they aren't so different after all. The villagers noticed the changes, whispered among themselves. How strange to see them working together. How unusual for the quiet blacksmith to smile so often. What an odd pair they made. But Emma cared less about whispers every day, about judgment, about fitting into boxes that didn't fit her. This life shaped itself around her like Thomas's leather apron. Practical, protective. You're different now, Thomas said one night. He was watching her read by firelight, growing stronger every day. Is that bad? The old fears crept into her voice. No, it's wonderful to watch. You're becoming yourself, your real self, herself. Who was that exactly? Not the family disappointment, not the marriage failure, but this person cooked good food, who grew healing herbs, who helped forge beautiful metal, who read poetry aloud, who smiled now without forcing it. West. Thomas was changing too. He talked more at meals, laughed sometimes at her jokes, shared his work instead of doing everything alone, seemed lighter somehow, happier. They developed their own language. A whistle meant come see something interesting. A wave meant they needed help right now. A smile could mean good morning, or well done, or thank you for being here. 1 month passed, then 2. The cottage felt like home. The forge felt like purpose. Thomas felt like, what exactly? Friend. partner, something warmer than either word could hold. Emma pushed those thoughts away quickly. This was enough, more than enough. Safety, respect, purpose, friendship, things she never had in her old life. But sometimes Thomas's hand brushed hers when passing tools. Sometimes their eyes met across the dinner table. Sometimes the air felt charged between them, like metal before the shaping began, full of potential. "Are you happy here?" Thomas asked one evening. Sudden and serious. "With this life? With me?" Emma thought carefully before answering. The truth surprised even her. "Yes, happier than I've ever been. Happier than I knew was possible." His smile was worth everything then. Every cruel word from her mother. Every whisper from the villagers. Every judgment from her past. This smile was for her, because of her. "Good," he said simply. "Very good." That night Emma wrote in her journal for the first time in months. "I came here as punishment. I found a home instead. Mother was wrong about everything. I am not worthless. I am not plain. I am becoming something new." "Try again," Thomas said gently. Emma gripped the hammer with both hands, focused on the glowing metal. Strike clean, lift high, strike again, finding the rhythm that made magic happen. 3 months had passed now. 3 months of learning and changing. Her hands had real calluses. Her arms had new strength. Her mind had a clear purpose. The metal bent to her will now. Finally, "Look at this." She held up the horseshoe she'd made. Not perfect, but completely hers. Made by her hands, her sweat and her determination to learn. Thomas examined it like precious jewelry. Good weight distribution, even thickness throughout. "Well done, Emma. Very well done indeed." She glowed under his praise. Real praise for real work. Not empty words about beauty or grace. Words about skill, about effort, about growth that mattered. The village blacksmith fell sick with fever. Orders piled up like autumn leaves. Thomas worked from dawn until after dark. Emma worked right beside him, no longer just helping, actually creating. "Mrs. Ward," the baker's wife called out one morning, first time anyone had used that name for her. "My garden gate latch is broken. Can you fix it?" Emma looked at Thomas quickly. He nodded with trust shining in his eyes. "I can try," she told the woman. And she did try. And she succeeded. Word spread quietly through the village. The Lord's daughter who worked with metal, who grew healing herbs in her garden, who made medicines that actually worked, who read stories to children, who was useful. Emma discovered she had an eye for detail that helped Thomas. She spotted flaws he missed after long days, suggested improvements that made his good work even better. "This design," she said one afternoon. She was sketching on paper with charcoal. "If we curve the iron here, add a small flourish there, it becomes art instead of just function." Thomas studied her drawing carefully, tried her suggestions. The result sold for 3 times the usual price. "You have vision," he said with wonder. "I just have technique." But together, the word hung in the air between them, full of meaning, full of promise. Neither dared name it yet, but her knowledge of herbs and healing became useful too. Burns were common in forge work, cuts happened daily. Emma's salves helped wounds heal clean and fast. Her care mattered to real people. "Please help my daughter," one desperate mother begged. "Her fever won't break. You helped the baker's son when he was sick." Emma felt the weight of trust. The responsibility. She prepared her strongest herbs carefully, gave detailed instructions, prayed she remembered her grandmother's teachings correctly. The girl recovered completely. Another success. Another step towards something she'd never been before. Needed. Thomas watched her bloom like flowers in spring, like raw metal in the forge fire, heated and shaped and strengthened into something beautiful, something valuable, something irreplaceable. "You're completely different," he told her one evening. They were working side by side, finishing a large order, from the frightened girl who arrived here. "Bad different?" The old insecurity still lived in her voice sometime. "No, good different. The best difference. You found your real self, not what they told you to be, what you actually are." Emma felt tears threaten, happy tears, grateful tears. "You gave me space to grow, time to learn, respect I never earned. No one ever. Everyone deserves those things." His voice went rough with emotion. Everyone deserves the chance to become who they're meant to be. The forge felt sacred in moments like that. This place of transformation, where raw metal became useful tools, where Emma became herself, where 2 broken people were healing together. Her mother wrote once, Cold words asking if her punishment was working properly. Emma read the letter once, laughed out loud, threw it directly into the forge fire. Bad news from home? Thomas asked with concern. Old news, dead news, nothing that matters anymore. Emma smiled and picked up her hammer. Now show me that new technique you mentioned. He did, patient as always. But now she learned quickly, understood easily, matched his rhythm perfectly, had become his true equal in the work they both loved. The villagers changed their tune gradually, nods of respect when she passed, requests for help with their problems, invitations to harvest festivals. The strange couple became simply neighbors, good neighbors, helpful neighbors, people who belonged. Emma kept a new journal now, filled with sketches of metalwork designs, notes about new techniques, recipes for healing medicines, records of happy moments, a catalog of growth and change, and becoming. One page simply said, I am not plain, I am not worthless, I am skilled, I am needed, I am valued, I am happy. Mother was wrong about everything. Thomas was right. Everyone deserves to become. The hammer felt light in her hands now. The fire felt warm and welcoming. The future felt bright with possibility. Emma Ward, blacksmith's wife, healer, artist, partner, herself, finally, and completely. Rain drummed steadily on the cottage roof. Too wet for forge work today. Thomas built up the fire high. Emma made tea with honey. They settled into chairs with books, but neither actually read. The silence felt different somehow, charged full of things neither quite dared to say. Tell me about before, Emma said quietly. Your family, your past, if you want to share it. Thomas stared into the dancing flames for long minutes, silent, deciding. Then slowly, carefully, he began to speak. My father was a lord, Lord Henry Ashford. My mother was his housemaid. Their secret love affair. Their shame when I was born. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Thomas continued, his voice steady but full of old pain. Father acknowledged me legally. Barely. He gave me his name, but not his love. Sent me to live with the village blacksmith when I was 7. His way of providing for his mistake. The fire crackled. Rain kept falling. Emma waited for more. My mother died giving birth to me. I never knew her voice, her touch, just stories from servants who pitied the bastard child. Thomas, Emma whispered. The blacksmith who raised me was kinder than my real father ever was. Taught me this trade, gave me books, treated me like I mattered. When he died, he left me everything. This cottage, the forge, a place to belong. Emma reached across the space between their chairs, took his work rough hand in both of hers. I'm so sorry. No child should grow up feeling unwanted. You understand, Thomas said, looking at their joined hands. Don't you? Being the disappointment, the burden, the one they wish had never been born. Yes, her voice was barely a breath. I understand exactly. They sat in comfortable silence. Then, two people who knew rejection intimately, who understood being judged for things beyond their control, finding recognition in each other's eyes. Is that why you agreed to marry me? Emma asked gently. Because you knew how it felt? Thomas turned to face her fully. Partly, but not entirely. His eyes were serious, intent. Emma, may I tell you something? Something I've never said to anyone. She nodded, heart beating faster. The day you arrived, you were not what I expected. Not at all. Emma's heart sank. I know I'm plain. I know I'm not. No, Thomas interrupted firmly. Listen to me, please. You were not plain to me. You were alive. Your eyes held intelligence, strength, spirit they couldn't break despite trying. You were beautiful in ways that mattered. That? Emma stared at him in shock. You thought I was beautiful? I still do. More so every day. When you concentrate on metalwork, when you tend your garden, when you read by firelight, when you smile without forcing it, you take my breath away. Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. Happy tears. Healing tears. I've been so careful, Thomas continued softly. So afraid of pushing too hard, too fast. You came here hurt, broken. I wanted to give you time to heal, space to grow. But Emma, what? She whispered. I'm falling in love with you. Have been for weeks. I love your mind, your kindness, your strength, your laugh, when something truly delights you. I love you. The words hung in the air between them, like a bridge waiting to be crossed. I love you too, Emma said through her tears. I didn't know what this feeling was. I've never felt it before. But yes, I love you, Thomas. Completely. He crossed to her chair then, knelt beside it, cupped her face gently in his strong hands. May I kiss you? He asked softly. Please, she breathed. The kiss was gentle, sweet, perfect, full of months of growing trust and affection. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. I want to be your real wife, Emma said boldly. In every way, if you'll have me. Emma. Thomas's voice was rough with emotion. Are you certain? I've never been more certain of anything. She smiled through happy tears. You helped me become myself. Now I want to share that self with you, completely. Thomas lifted her from the chair, held her close against his chest. I love you, he murmured into her hair. My brave, strong, beautiful Emma. I love you too, she whispered back. My gentle, kind, wonderful Thomas. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside their cottage, two hearts had finally found their home in each other. The lonely blacksmith and the unwanted lady. Learning that love sees beauty where others see flaws. That the heart recognizes its match regardless of society's rules. That sometimes the most unexpected marriages become the truest love stories of all. 6 months of happiness passed. Like a beautiful dream. Emma woke each morning in Thomas's arms, worked beside him in the forge. Shared meals and books and quiet conversations by the fire. Life felt perfect, complete. Then the letter arrived. Emma found it slipped under their door, one morning. Expensive paper. Her mother's seal, her stomach clenched with old fear as she broke it open. Emma. Word has reached me of your situation. Living as a common tradesman's wife. Working with your hands like a servant, disgracing our family name with your unseemly behavior. Lord Pemberton has made an offer for you. A proper marriage to restore your position. You will come home immediately to prepare for this union. A carriage will arrive next Tuesday. Do not think to refuse. Your marriage to the blacksmith was never legal. You remain under my authority until properly wed to your betters. Lady Margaret. Emma's hands shook as she read it twice. 3 times. The words didn't change. Her perfect world was crumbling around her like old mortar. What is it? Thomas asked, emerging from the forge. He took one look at her face and crossed to her immediately. Emma? What's wrong? She handed him the letter wordlessly. Watched his face grow dark as he read. She can't do this, Thomas said finally. His voice was controlled, but Emma heard the anger underneath. You're my wife, my legal wife. Are we? Emma's voice came out small and frightened. Really? Was our ceremony legal? We wed in the village church, but... Thomas went very still. What exactly are you asking? My mother arranged our marriage. Made the contracts. What if she made sure it couldn't be legally binding? What if she always planned to retrieve me? The silence stretched between them. Cold, terrible. It doesn't matter, Thomas said firmly. Legal or not, you're my wife. I won't let anyone take you. But Emma could see the doubt in his eyes now. The fear. What if Lady Margaret was right? What if their happiness was built on nothing but hope and wishes? Lord Pemberton, Emma whispered. He's 50 years old. Has buried 2 wives already. He wants an heir and doesn't care how he gets one. Thomas pulled her into his arms. Then, held her tight against his chest. I won't let that happen. I swear to you, Emma, I won't let anyone hurt you. But how could a blacksmith fight a lord? How could love stand against law and money and noble privilege? Bang! The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Thomas rode to the next town to consult with a lawyer. Emma tried to continue her normal routine, but jumped at every sound, expecting the carriage, expecting armed men to drag her away. The villagers had heard the gossip by now. Some looked at Emma with pity, others with knowing nods. Of course the lady would go back where she belonged. Of course it had been too good to last, but some surprised her. The baker's wife brought fresh bread. For strength, she said simply. The blacksmith's widow offered to hide Emma in her cellar if needed. Even the priest came by to reassure them their marriage was valid in God's eyes. Whatever earthly law might say, Thomas returned from town with grim news. The lawyer says, it's complicated. Your mother's contracts might override our ceremony. Without proper documentation, Emma closed her eyes. She had known this happiness was too good to be true. But Thomas continued. He also said possession matters. You're here, you've been my wife. In fact, for months. That counts for something. Will it be enough? Emma asked. Thomas took her hands in his. I don't know, but I promise you this. I will fight for us. For you. With everything I have. That night they held each other desperately. both afraid it might be their last night together, both trying to memorize every touch, every whisper, every moment of closeness. Love alone might not be enough to save them, but they would not surrender without a battle. Tuesday morning dawned gray and cold. Emma stood at the cottage window, watching the road, waiting. Her stomach churned with nerves. Thomas worked in the forge, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he gripped his hammer too tight. They were both ready for war. The carriage arrived at noon exactly, black and imposing. 4 armed guards rode alongside. Emma's mother stepped down in elegant traveling clothes, her face cold as winter stone. "Emma," Lady Margaret called sharply. "Come out here immediately. We have much to discuss." Emma took a deep breath, squeezed Thomas's hand one last time. Together they walked outside to face her mother. "Mother," Emma's voice was steady, stronger than she felt. "Look at you." Margaret's eyes swept over Emma's simple dress, her work-roughened hands and her sun-touched skin, completely ruined, like a common laborer. "Disgusting. I'm exactly what I choose to be," Emma replied quietly. "You choose nothing," Margaret snapped. "You are my daughter, my property until properly married. This arrangement was never meant to be permanent." For all that, Thomas stepped forward, then, "Lady Margaret, I am Thomas Ward, Emma's husband. She stays here with me." Margaret laughed coldly. "Husband? You are nothing but a convenience, a place to store damaged goods until a proper use could be found." "That's not true," Emma said, finding her courage. "Thomas is my husband. I love him. I choose." "Love," Margaret spat. "What does love matter? Lord Pemberton offers real marriage, a real position, a chance to redeem your family's honor." "And what does Lord Pemberton offer, Emma?" Thomas asked quietly, "besides his title?" Margaret waved dismissively. "Security, protection, children who will be legitimate heirs. Everything a woman should want." "Everything you want, you mean?" Emma said with dawning clarity. "Lord Pemberton is rich, powerful, connected to the royal court. Marrying me to him helps you, not me." "Foolish girl. It helps us all." "No." Emma stepped closer to Thomas. "It helps only you. I won't do it, Mother. I won't leave my real husband for your political games." Margaret's face went white with rage. "You have no choice. Guards, take her to the carriage." 2 men stepped forward, hands on their sword hilts. Thomas moved to block their path, his own hand reaching for the iron rod he carried. "I wouldn't," Thomas said calmly. "Emma is under my protection now." "Your protection?" Margaret laughed harshly. "You're a bastard blacksmith. What protection can you offer against real power?" "The protection of truth," said a new voice. They all turned. The village priest was walking toward them, carrying a leather satchel. Behind him came the baker, the miller, and the blacksmith's widow. Half the village, it seemed. "Father Morrison?" Emma breathed. "I have something that might interest you, Lady Margaret." The priest pulled out an official document, the marriage certificate for Thomas Ward and Emma Ashford, properly witnessed, legally binding, filed with the church registry. Margaret snatched the paper, scanning it quickly. Her face grew paler. "Ashford," she said slowly. "Yes," Thomas said quietly. "My father's name, which makes Emma, Lady Emma Ashford Ward. Still noble-born, still legally wed, still beyond your authority. Is that?" The silence stretched like a held breath. Emma stared at Thomas in shock. He had claimed his father's name officially, given her back her title while making their marriage unbreakable. "When?" Emma whispered. "Last week. When I went to see the lawyer, I claimed my birthright properly. For you. For us." Margaret looked between the legal document and the crowd of villagers now surrounding her carriage. All watching, all witnesses to whatever she decided to do next. "This changes nothing," she said finally, but her voice lacked conviction. "Pemberton expects." "Lord Pemberton can find another wife," Emma said firmly. "I am already married, happily married, to a man I love and respect." "You'll regret this," Margaret hissed. "Both of you. When poverty comes, when society shuns you, when your children have no prospect." "Our children will have love," Thomas interrupted, "and useful skills, and parents who chose each other freely. They'll be richer than most." Margaret climbed back into her carriage with stiff dignity. "You are dead to me," she told Emma coldly. "Do not expect help when this fantasy crumbles." "I don't," Emma replied. "I never did." The carriage pulled away, guards following. The villagers cheered and surrounded Emma and Thomas with congratulations and support. Emma turned to her husband with tears of joy streaming down her face. "Thomas, what you did, claiming your name for me. For us, he corrected, kissing her gently. Always for us. She was Lady Emma Ashford Ward now, noble, uncommon, titled and skilled. Choosing love over duty, choosing happiness over obligation, choosing the life she built with her own hands alongside the man who saw her true worth from the very first day. 1 year later, Emma stood in their garden, hands deep in rich soil. The herbs grew thick and green under her care. Her healing medicines were famous now throughout 3 villages. People came from miles away seeking help. Lady Emma, a young woman called from the gate. My baby has that cough again. Do you have more of that syrup? Of course, sir. Come inside. Emma wiped her hands clean and smiled. Lady Emma. The title felt natural now. Earned through service, not just birth. Thomas emerged from the forge, face bright with pride. In his hands was his latest creation. A delicate iron rose, each petal perfect and detailed. Art that would grace some lord's garden made by a bastard blacksmith's skilled hands. It's beautiful, Emma said, examining the metalwork. Lord Hertford will pay well for this quality. We make a good team, Thomas replied, kissing her temple. Your design's my hands. Beauty and function together. Their life had found perfect rhythm. Emma spent mornings in the forge, helping with the artistic pieces that brought top prices. Afternoons in her garden and still room, making medicines. Evenings were spent reading together, or entertaining the friends they'd gathered. The cottage was larger now. Thomas had added rooms as their business grew. A proper workshop for Emma's healing work. A library for their growing collection of books. Space for the children they hoped to have someday. News came regularly from Emma's old world. Her sister Catherine had married Lord Pemberton after all. Letters described a cold, formal life, elegant but empty. Emma felt only pity, no envy. Her mother never wrote, never acknowledged Emma's existence. But Emma had made peace with that loss. Some people could not bend without breaking. Lady Margaret was one of them. Do you ever regret it? Thomas asked one evening. They were sitting by their fire, Emma mending a torn shirt while he read poetry aloud. Regret what? Giving up your old life. The comfort, the luxury, the ease. Emma set down her needle and looked around their cottage. Simple but beautiful, filled with things they'd chosen together. Made meaningful by love and work and shared purpose. Wes, never, she said firmly. That wasn't my life. It was my mother's life, forced on me. This is my life. The one I chose. The one I built. Even when your hands are rough from work. When you smell like herbs and metal instead of perfume. Emma laughed and held up her calloused palms. Especially then. These hands create things. Heal people. Help you make beauty. They're useful hands now. I'm proud of them. Thomas caught her hands and kissed each palm gently. I love them. I love you. Exactly as you are. And I love you. My noble bastard blacksmith husband. They had created something remarkable together. A partnership of equals. Love built on respect and shared work and common dreams. Marriage as it was meant to be. The village had grown around them. New families settling near the forge. Young couples seeking Thomas's training in metalwork. Mothers bringing sick children to Emma's skilled care. They had become pillars of their community. Not through birth or wealth, but through service. Through being genuinely useful to the people around them. I have news, Thomas said, one spring morning. His voice held barely contained excitement. Good news? Emma asked, looking up from her account books. The royal armor needs repair work. Complex, delicate restoration. They want the best metal worker in the region. His grin split his face wide. They want us. Emma stared at him in shock. The royal court? But Thomas, that means recognition. Real recognition. It means our work speaks for itself. Bastard or not. Lady or not. Skill is skill. They traveled to court together the next month. Emma dressed simply but elegantly in clothes she'd sewn herself. Thomas wore his finest shirt, clean and proud. They walked into the palace as equals, partners and artists worthy of royal attention. The work took weeks. Intricate repair of ancient ceremonial armor. Thomas's hands guided by Emma's eye for detail. Together they restored pieces that had protected kings for generations. When the work was finished, the courtmaster craftsman examined every piece carefully. His verdict was unanimous. Finest metalwork I've seen in 20 years. Master Ward, you and your lady wife have exceeded every expectation. Master Ward, recognition of Thomas's true skill. Lady wife, acknowledgement of Emma's role in their success. They returned home rich, not just in coin but in reputation. Orders poured in from noble houses across the land. Their simple forge became a destination for those seeking the finest metalwork available. But fame didn't change them. They still worked side by side each day, still tended Emma's healing garden, still read together by the fire each evening, still chose love and partnership over everything else. 2 years after their marriage began as an arrangement, Emma discovered she was carrying their first child. Thomas wept with joy when she told him they would be parents. Their love would create new life. What kind of world are we bringing this child into? Emma wondered, hands on her growing belly. A world where love matters more than bloodlines, Thomas said firmly. Where skill matters more than titles. Where people can become whoever they choose to be. A better world than the one we grew up in. Much better. Because we'll help make it that way. Their child would be born into love and security, would learn useful skills and important values, would know that worth comes from character, not breeding, that happiness comes from choosing well, not settling for what others demand. Emma Ward had been sold as punishment to a blacksmith. She had found her true calling instead, her real love, her genuine self. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us become the best things that ever could. Sometimes being unwanted by the wrong people leads us to being treasured by the right one. Sometimes what looks like an ending is actually the most beautiful beginning of all. This was Emma's story. The plain girl who discovered her worth, the failed lady who became a master craftswoman, the unwanted daughter who found unconditional love. In the end, she got exactly what she deserved. Everything her heart had always longed for but never dared to dream possible. A partnership of equals, work that mattered, love that lasted, a life built by her own choices, with her own hands, alongside the person who saw her true value from the very first day. The blacksmith's bride had found her happily ever after. Not through rescue or miracle, but through courage, growth, and choosing love over fear, again and again and again. And they lived happily, working, learning, loving, and building something beautiful together, ever after.